Hello everybody. In an earlier video I made called Navcoms, I droned on quite a bit about some basic buttonology in dealing with navigation radios and communication radios. Volume, the audio panel, how you can select what you're talking to and listening to. I'll try and put a link to that video down in the comments of this one. In this video, I wanted to just show a couple other audio panels that are typically found in general aviation airplanes. The one in the previous video was a Garmin audio panel, and that's certainly not the only audio panel that's out there. So I just wanted to show a couple of others strictly for the button pushing on the audio panel, how you can determine what you're talking to and listening to. Nothing necessarily with volume selecting and Morse code IDing. We covered all that in the last video. So let's take a look at actually a pretty simple one first, an older Narco audio panel. So I apologize for the bad lighting here. The airplane's in the hangar. So I'm going to kind of show this at a bit of an angle so you can see how the buttons are either pushed in or pushed out. So this one's pretty straightforward. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 whopping buttons on this one. And everything over here is pretty straightforward. It's just listen buttons, not unlike the Garmin audio panel we had in the other video. If you want to listen to what's going on in your Nav1 radio, you push it in. And with it turned on, it would light up a little bit. Same for your Nav2. You can hear your marker beacons. If you need to hear the stuff over the speaker, instead of using your headphones, you would just push that in and leave that in. So really the only thing I need to talk about here, and it'll be really quick, is just the communication side of things. You can see we do have 2 radios in here. We've got our COM1 and our GPS, and we've got a COM2 down here. So with this pushed in, we are talking and listening to whatever we have dialed in our COM1 radio. If I need to switch down to our COM2 radio, I'll just push this, and watch what happens with that button. It just kicks right out. So it is literally just a one or the other mechanism. That simple. If I want to talk and listen here, like I'm dealing with air traffic control, but I want to listen to maybe my weather, maybe flight services talking to me down here, I can hit this both button. And notice this didn't change. So now I'm talking and listening on COM1, and I'm actually listening to both. I'm just passively listening to this radio. Now I'm talking and listening down here. I still got that both in, so I'm passively listening to whatever's in this radio. When you're done needing to listen to more than one thing at a time, just undo that little both button. That's pretty straightforward. All right, now let's take a look at a little bit more I don't want to say more complicated audio panel. It looks intimidating because there's a whole lot of buttons on it, but I think you'll see it's pretty straightforward as well. All right, so here we have a King, this is KMA-24 audio panel, and there is just buttons all over this thing. But we can probably eliminate half of the buttons right off the bat just by seeing how they're organized. Actually, I'm going to eliminate these 2 buttons here. These have to deal with the marker beacon and the lights that are installed. Those are more for IFR pilots, helping them know where outer markers and middle markers are. So we're going to ignore these 2 buttons. We're really interested in all these vertical gray buttons that are all of our listen buttons. And if you can see on the top here, this top row is labeled speaker, and the bottom row is labeled phone for headphones. So if you're using headphones or headsets in your airplane, which I certainly hope you are, we can actually eliminate this whole top row of buttons right from the get-go. Don't need to worry about them. If you're not using headphones and you are using the overhead speaker, then you'll actually eliminate the bottom set of buttons and we'll only be looking at the top ones. So there, we're 50% of the way done already. So these are all listen buttons, and then this switch is our talk selector. And in this airplane, we do have 2 communication radios. This Garmin 530 is our COM1, and then we've got a Narco radio down here for our COM2 with an active and standby frequency. So we got our COM1 and COM2, just like all the other airplanes. So here, I'm going to turn this a little sideways. You can see all these buttons. I mean, they just push in and push out. So they are all out right now. So right now I am listening to nothing. If we need to hear stuff for our nav radios, again, our Morse code identification, listening to weather that's broadcast, maybe I need to hear flight service talking to me over VOR, you'd hit the appropriate buttons, either nav 1 or nav 2. We got a marker button for the IFR guys, and so on. So here's our talk switch. So right now I am talking to whatever's dialed into my COM 1, but I'm not listening to anything. Well, that's no good. So there we go. Now we're talking and listening to the active frequency in COM 1. If I want to change to my second radio, I can come over here and go COM 2. But now I'm talking down here on my second radio, but I'm still listening to my COM 1. And that could be confusing. So we got to go like this. Now I'm talking to COM 2 and listening to COM 2. Go back to COM 1, click, undo that, and do that. So that certainly works, but that is a lot of button pushing and can lead to lost communication, no radio scenarios where you've talking on one thing and listening to the other. And air traffic control is trying to holler at you. So a better setup is to leave those alone and see this auto side right here. And we're just going to deal with the headphone side. We're going to assume you're wearing headsets. We're going to push that in. So now this just deals with the comm radios, has nothing to do with your nav things. I am automatically listening to whatever I'm talking to. So now I'm talking and automatically listening to COM 1. Now I am talking and automatically listening to COM 2. And back to COM 1 again. I don't have to mess with these buttons at all. That's pretty easy. For the scenario of we're flying along with flight following, we're dealing with air traffic control, but I want to listen to maybe the weather at my destination airport. I can't just go turn this and hang up on air traffic control, so I need some way to passively listen to the other radio. Well, in the Narco we just looked at, it was that both button. In the Garmin's, there was a set of green buttons up on the top. Here, I literally just push COM 2. So now I'm talking and automatically listening to COM 1, who I want to be talking to, but I can also listen to whatever's coming out of my COM 2 radio. If I was dealing with COM 2 and I wanted to just listen to something on COM 1, maybe I dial in, heaven forbid, 121.5 and actually monitor the guard frequency like we're supposed to, I could do that. If you do use this auto and you got COM 1 here and you push that in, that's really doing nothing. I'm already automatically listening to COM 1 because that's where I have this switch. So try and leave as many buttons out as possible. Keep all the stuff out of your ear except for what you're talking to and listening to. And if you have a need to listen to something in addition to that, push the appropriate button. When you're done with it, then get it back out of your ear. So it's certainly not the only audio panels that are out there. There's a lot of other brands and styles, but they will all have some sort of mechanism to select what you want to talk and listen to, as well as some mechanism to listen to extra things in addition to that. Your nav radios, extra communication radios, whatever you need. So, hope that helped. If you've got any questions, comments, or smart remarks, please leave them in the comments, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you.